Your bathroom can look spotless and still smell like a gas station restroom by mid-afternoon, and the reason has nothing to do with how hard you scrubbed. It has to do with a chemical reaction happening in places a mop can't reach. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why that smell keeps winning, and the $1 fix that actually beats it, along with a real 15-minute method you can run this weekend. If cleaning content like this is useful to you, tapping subscribe helps this channel keep making it, and I'd honestly love to hear which room in your house smells the worst, so drop that in the comments. Now let's get into why bleach, air fresheners, and elbow grease have been losing this fight the whole time. The chemistry nobody explains urine odor isn't really one smell. It's a chemical process that starts the moment liquid touches a surface, whether that's porcelain, grout, caulk, or the vinyl flooring hugging the base of your toilet. Urea, one of the main compounds in urine, doesn't sit there quietly. Bacteria that live on every bathroom surface produce an enzyme called urease, and urease tears urea apart into ammonia and carbon dioxide almost on contact. That sharp, eye-watering sting you notice first is the ammonia. It's fast, it's obvious, and it's honestly the easy part of this problem. The harder part happens next. As that breakdown continues, byproducts react with other compounds in urine and form uric acid crystals. These crystals are the actual villain of this whole story, because unlike ammonia, they don't evaporate or wash away. They're not water-soluble. You can mop over them 100 times, steam clean them, scrub with bleach until your arms ache, and the crystals stay locked into whatever porous material they've settled into. Then humidity does the rest. A hot shower, a warm afternoon, even just breathing in a small room raises moisture in the air, and those crystals reactivate, releasing odor compounds right back out. This is exactly why so many people describe scrubbing a bathroom floor with heavy-duty cleaner and having the smell return within a day or two. That's not bad cleaning technique. That's uric acid crystal chemistry doing precisely what it does against water-based products, every single time. Here's where it gets interesting, because one compound actually breaks this cycle instead of just interrupting it for an afternoon, and it costs about $1. Sodium bicarbonate, plain baking soda. A box runs somewhere between $1 and $1.50 at nearly any grocery store, and chemically, it's sitting at roughly a pH of 8.3, which makes it alkaline. Uric acid crystals, on the other hand, land in an acidic range, usually somewhere around 5.5 to 6.0 in concentrated bathroom deposits. When an alkaline compound meets an acidic one, a real reaction happens. Neutralization, not masking, not covering, actual chemical neutralization where the crystal structure breaks down and dissolves. Whatever ammonia hasn't fully crystallized yet gets neutralized in that same pass, which means there's nothing left sitting there waiting for a humid morning to wake it back up, because the fuel source itself is gone. Cleaning organizations that study odor elimination point to pH neutralization as essentially the only method that chemically eliminates uric acid odor from porous household surfaces. Air fresheners sit at a neutral pH, which is part of why they only ever mask a smell instead of resolving it. Bleach, meanwhile, is a disinfectant. It's excellent at killing bacteria, but it does nothing to the crystal structure itself. That's the answer to a question a lot of people ask without realizing it. Why does a toilet that was just bleached still smell within hours? The bacteria causing new odor are dead. The old crystalline fuel is still sitting there, completely untouched. Where the smell actually lives. Something surprising here. The toilet bowl itself is one of the least important surfaces in this whole equation. Porcelain is non-porous, so odor doesn't really settle into it the way people assume, which is also why tossing baking soda straight into the bowl water does almost nothing. The real hotspots are elsewhere, and once you know where to look, this whole problem becomes a lot more solvable. Hotspot number 1 is the grout lines on the floor around the toilet base. Grout is porous by nature, and it soaks up years of splash and drip like a sponge nobody ever wrings out. Right alongside it is hotspot number 2, the caulk bead where the toilet meets the tile. It looks solid on the surface, but caulk is soft and slightly porous, and it holds odor deep inside its texture long after the visible surface has been wiped clean. Then there's the flooring within roughly 1.5 feet of the toilet base, especially vinyl or laminate, along the sides and toward the back where drips accumulate for years without ever being noticed, let alone wiped. This porosity is exactly why some people swear baking soda transformed their bathroom while others insist it did nothing at all. The difference was never the baking soda itself, it's whether that baking soda ever actually reached the crystals. A dry powder sitting on a surface for a few minutes can't work its way down into grout or caulk. What actually gets down there is a thinned alkaline solution, ideally with a surfactant mixed in, similar to how a small amount of dish soap helps water sink into a surface instead of just beating on top of it. And this matters just as much. Neutralization isn't instant. The longer that alkaline solution stays in contact with the acidic crystals, the more completely they break down. A few minutes barely scratches the surface. Contact time is really the entire game here, which explains why a quick sprinkle and flush approach leaves so many people convinced this trick is a myth. It isn't a myth, it just never got the time it needed to actually work. The 15-minute method that actually works. Here's the practical version, and it realistically fits into about 15 minutes if you set it up right. You don't need anything you can't find in a normal kitchen or under the sink. A box of baking soda, a small squeeze bottle of dish soap, an old toothbrush, or a stiff bristled grout brush, warm water, and a rag. Crack a window or run the bathroom fan while you work, mainly because you'll be disturbing years of built-up ammonia, and it's more pleasant with a bit of airflow moving through the room. None of this requires gloves or a mask, since baking soda is about as mild a compound as exists in a home, but if your skin tends to dry out easily, a pair of dish gloves keeps things comfortable during scrubbing, especially if you're doing several rooms back to back. Mix roughly a cup of baking soda with enough warm water to form a spreadable paste, and stir in a small squeeze of dish soap. That soap is your surfactant. It's what carries the alkaline solution down into porous grout and caulk instead of letting it sit uselessly on top. Spread that paste generously along the grout lines circling the toilet base, over the caulk bead where porcelain meets tile, and across any flooring within that 1.5-foot splash zone. Use an old toothbrush or a small scrub brush to work it slightly into the texture of the grout rather than just laying it on top. Then walk away. Let it sit for at least 10 to 15 minutes so the alkaline paste has real contact time with whatever crystals are hiding underneath. This is the step almost everyone skips, and it's the entire reason results vary so wildly from person to person. Once that time is up, scrub lightly with a damp brush and wipe the area down with a clean, barely damp cloth. You should notice an immediate difference in how the room smells, especially once humidity rises later in the day. For a bathroom that's only had mild odor for a short while, this single session is often enough. For a space that's smelled for years, be honest with yourself about expectations. Deep-set deposits in old grout can sit several millimeters below the surface, and the top layer neutralizes first, while what's underneath keeps releasing odor until it's reached too. Tile restoration professionals note that heavily contaminated grout around a toilet is rarely resolved in one pass. Running this same 15-minute method again the next day, and maybe once more a few days after that, is completely normal for a long-standing problem, and each pass reaches a little deeper than the last. Why the usual backups fall short? Before moving on, it's worth addressing the other products people reach for, because almost everyone has tried at least one of these already and wondered why the smell crept back anyway. Steam cleaners get recommended constantly for bathroom grout, and heat does loosen some surface grime, but heat alone has no effect on the acid-base chemistry driving the odor. A steam cleaner can lift dust and loosen a bit of buildup, yet it leaves the crystal structure fully intact underneath, ready to reactivate the next time humidity climbs. Enzymatic cleaners marketed for pet odor sit closer to the right idea, since some actually break down organic residue. The catch is concentration and contact time. Most consumer versions are diluted for general spraying rather than sitting in direct, prolonged contact with a concentrated crystal deposit, so they end up performing more like a light surface refresh than an actual fix. They're not useless, they're just aimed at a lighter version of this problem than a bathroom that's been building up odor for years, and they tend to work best as a between-treatment maintenance step rather than the main event. Then there are plug-in air fresheners, scented gel packs, and toilet drop-in tablets, which sit at a neutral pH by design because they're built to smell pleasant, not to react chemically with anything. They cover the room in fragrance, which briefly wins out over ammonia and crystal odor, and then fades within hours, leaving the exact same porous surfaces untouched underneath. None of this makes those products worthless for a quick refresh before guests arrive. It just means they were never built to solve what's actually happening in the grout, and expecting them to is where a lot of ongoing frustration comes from. The mistake that cancels itself out. This next part might be the most common misunderstanding in bathroom cleaning, and it's worth clearing up because it explains why a popular trick often underdelivers. Combining baking soda and vinegar in the same container feels productive because of that dramatic fizzing reaction, but that fizz is literally an acid and a base canceling each other out before either one has touched anything you actually care about cleaning. You end up watching a chemical reaction consume itself in a bowl, then applying salty, mostly neutral water to your grout. Used separately, each ingredient does a completely different job. Vinegar, being mildly acidic, does real work dissolving mineral deposits and disrupting bacterial colonies living in grout. Baking soda, being alkaline, is what actually neutralizes uric acid crystals. Apply vinegar first as its own step, rinse, let the surface dry a bit, and then follow with the baking soda paste method described earlier. Research out of environmental microbiology departments studying household surface bacteria has documented uric acid deposits in bathroom grout as a leading source of chronic residential odor, and confirms something cleaning professionals have observed for years. Scrubbing alone, without real pH neutralizing chemistry, simply doesn't reach the odor source hiding in porous material. The hot spots almost nobody treats. A few spots get missed even by people who are otherwise thorough, and they're worth naming specifically because they quietly feed a room's overall smell even when everything visible looks clean. First, the hinge points where the toilet seat attaches to the bowl. Mist from flushing settles into the plastic hardware around those hinges, pooling in tiny gaps where the bracket meets porcelain, creating an invisible odor source that almost never gets wiped, let alone treated with anything alkaline. Lifting the seat fully, or removing it entirely if your model allows it, and running a cotton swab dipped in the baking soda paste around each hinge bracket takes maybe 2 extra minutes but reaches a spot a normal wipe down never touches. Second, the rear exterior of the tank where it meets the wall, a spot that collects dust, moisture, and splash simultaneously and rarely gets touched during a normal cleaning routine. A damp cloth wrapped around 2 fingers, run along that gap once a week, catches most of what would otherwise sit there and slowly contribute to the room's overall smell. Third, and this one surprises almost everyone, the area just above the waterline inside the bowl itself. It's the zone that catches splash, but isn't always submerged, so a thin mineral and uric acid film builds up there over time. Worse still are the small jet holes under the rim, arranged in a ring where tank water enters during a flush. Film builds up inside those narrow channels, and a normal brush stroke never physically reaches inside them. It's a small contributor on its own, but it quietly feeds the ambient smell of the whole room day after day. The one cause cleaning can never fix now. Here's that one reason a bathroom keeps smelling no matter how well everything gets cleaned, the piece almost nobody connects. At the base of every toilet sits a wax ring, a compressed gasket made of beeswax or petroleum wax that seals the connection between the toilet and the floor drain flange underneath it. Over years, that wax ring can compress unevenly, develop tiny gaps, or simply break down with age. When that happens, small amounts of sewer gas, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide creep up through the gap between the toilet base and the floor, and chemically, that smell is almost indistinguishable from ordinary urine odor. No amount of surface cleaning touches it, because the source sits below the toilet entirely, completely out of reach of any paste, spray, or scrub brush. The telltale sign is timing. When a bathroom smells worst after the toilet has sat unused for a stretch, say first thing in the morning, or after a day away, sewer gas has had time to concentrate while bowl water sat still instead of refreshing. If that pattern sounds like your bathroom even after a thorough grout and caulk treatment, a failing wax ring is the likely explanation, and it's a cheap, replaceable part. Until it's swapped out though, no amount of surface-level effort will resolve it, because the odor was never coming from the surface in the first place. Checking it doesn't require pulling the toilet yourself, if you'd rather not. Rock the toilet gently side to side with your foot. Any visible movement at the base, or a slight rocking feeling that wasn't there before, is a strong sign the seal underneath has failed, and the wax has lost its grip. A faint but constant sulfur-like smell right at floor level, distinct from the sharper ammonia smell up higher, is another clue pointing toward the seal rather than the surfaces around it. A wax ring itself typically costs under $15 at any hardware store, and while replacing one is a manageable weekend project for someone comfortable shutting off a water supply line and lifting a toilet off its bolts, it's also a quick, inexpensive job for a plumber if that's not something you want to tackle solo. Either way, it's worth ruling out before assuming your grout treatment simply didn't work, because treating the wrong source, no matter how well, was never going to fix a problem sitting below the floor. One pattern shows up across almost every long-running bathroom odor complaint. The visible surfaces get all the attention, while the porous ones get ignored entirely. Porcelain gets scrubbed weekly. Grout gets a quick swipe at best. The caulk bead gets bleached but never actually neutralized. The strip of flooring behind the toilet, where splash has quietly accumulated for years, often never gets touched at all. If a bathroom has smelled persistently despite regular cleaning, the crystals are already sitting in the grout and caulk, waiting for the next humid morning to wake back up. Once you've run the baking soda method and the smell has actually cleared, a penetrating grout sealer is worth the extra step. It closes up the surface pores that let deposits build in the first place, which is the real reason a sealed floor stays odor-free so much longer than a raw one ever could. Think of it as locking the door after you've already cleaned the house. A once-a-month refresh with the same paste, focused just on the grout and caulk rather than a full deep treatment, is usually enough to keep new deposits from ever reaching the point where they need a full 15-minute session again. $1's worth of the right chemistry, applied with real contact time, does something 3 years of air fresheners and bleach never managed, because it isn't covering the smell up, it's dismantling the exact thing producing it. If this saved you a trip to the store for another spray bottle that only works for a day, give the video a like so it reaches more people dealing with the same problem, and subscribe if you want more of these no-nonsense cleaning breakdowns. I'll be back soon with another one worth your time.